I got a lot of rods to go over. This video here's another one of the comparison videos, kind of like the ultralight comparison that we did in a recent one. But this is going to be light power rods up to medium light power rods. Now, I'm comparing the two because these rods all feel pretty similar to me. Some are just more suited for the lighter stuff, like the ultralight jigs. Some of them are a little bit more suited for the heavier stuff, for like dock shooting or finesse fishing for bass, things like that. But each of these rods are just as capable at, you know, throwing ultralight stuff for these small creeks, roadside creeks, crappie fishing and stuff like that as the next. And again, some of them are just more suited for the really light stuff just because they're lighter rods. And some are just a little bit stiffer and better suited for the dock shooting and heavier jig type applications. But in this case, unlike the ultralight video, I've got 6 rods. So I'm probably not going to try to catch like 7, 8, 9, 10 fish per rod. Probably just going to do a couple per rod and move on because that's a lot of rods to compare in a short amount of time. Alright, the first rod we're going to start off with, you've seen it a bunch of times in videos. This is my ACC Crappie Sticks 6-foot 1-piece split grip, and it is the GS061P model. I've got a Stratic 1000. I could just use the same reel, so that way it's a little bit more even, but I'm not going to bother with it, to be honest with you. I may just take and cut the jig that I'm using and put it on rod to rod to rod. That way it's a little bit more balanced. We're going to start off with a 64 ounce jig head with a little trout magnet and see what happens. Alright. I felt a little nibble there, but I wasn't sure that one had grabbed it. Chill. Make this a lot easier on both of us. Well, there's fish number 1. I think, like I said, we'll do just a couple of fish per rod and go on because we've got several rods to do this little thing with. Oh, as soon as it hit the water. Away from that fence post. Well, that's a good sign. There we go. Now, if we can get a good bite like that, that's pretty quick, we might give each rod a couple more fish, but we're not going to, you know, do like 10 fish per rod. Oh, darn it. There must be like a little school of them right over there, just where that stump is poking out of the ground. Got it. That was a nice one. Of course, the way this summer has gone as far as catching fish goes, I'll take anything. They're all nice. There's another one. That one ain't nothing big. I mean, you got some funk going on with you. It's a pretty fish nonetheless. One last look. Alright, I think we're going to try for one more fish on this rod and then go on to the next one. Oh, that feels nice. And it's not really that big, but I mean, it's a nice one for this creek, that's for sure. Chill. Alright. Well, that's a decent one. One last look. And let's go swap out rods. Now, like I said, these rods are medium lights and light power rods, but they feel very similar to each other. Because, you know, every brand's power rating is going to be different. You know, nothing's ever set in stone. There's no definitive medium heavy, light, medium light, and so on and so forth. Alright, we re-rigged the same jig head and lure that we were just using on the first rod. This one here is the Kastking Zephyr and Zephyr reel. The thing is with this reel, it's a 500 size, but if you put this up to it next to any 1000 size reel, it's the exact same size. It's got the same taller, shallower cut spool. So I think Kastking kind of had some misinformation with sizing on their reels because they're a little bit different. The 500 size is definitely smaller than this one. Anyway, this is the Zephyr moderate, light, fast, 4 to 8 pound line rating, 1/8 ounce to 3/8 ounce, which is, in my opinion, way too heavy of a rating for this rod because this thing is kind of a noodle, but it's a light power rod. Being a medium or moderate rod, it starts to, get into the backbone just below the ferrule. But I've got this thing spooled up with some 2 pound mono, so we might get to hear a little bit of drag pulling because there is, a chance of some decent fish in this creek. The biggest one I've ever caught out of here was this one that's on the screen, but that's not very likely. Alright, there we go. Chill. That's a pretty fish. Not nearly as vibrant in colors, but once the water starts cooling down, they do kind of start losing their color a little bit. One last look. All right. I know I said in my last video not to dwell on one spot if you're catching a lot of fish, because you can kind of disrupt, how easy it is to catch fish in that particular spot, because eventually fish will get used to seeing the same thing every couple of seconds. So we still got plenty of creek to work with. Pretty much everything on this side and the creek on that side. I mean, it's the same creek, just the other side of the road. There we go, got another one. Bait's already getting chewed up. That was a fun one on this rod. This Zephyr rod is, it's always been a fun rod. It's just a little bit too much of a noodle for my liking, but it works. It's a good solid rod, good for the price point. Kastking isn't exactly known for making, rods that are at the same level as Daiwa, Shimano, and all that, but they're good rods. Gotcha. Not a huge fish, but we'll take it. A bunch of little bluegills and stuff like that, which is plenty enough for me. Sounds like a plan. I'll have to try that.
It'll work.
All right. There's some lady that lives just down the road here just stopped by and was chit-chatting about the mosquitoes and such, and says that somebody she knows sprayed Morning Glory body spray or whatever that smelly good is, and said they never had problems with mosquitoes after that. So I like smelly good stuff, so I'm gonna have to give that a shot. It would definitely smell better than this off bug spray, which I firmly believe the mosquitoes around here do shots of before coming out for the day. Gotcha. Don't come off, don't come off. Because I've already lost like 3 fish. And I thought you got around that fence post. That's a fun size one. Yeah, that's a pretty fish. Don't have the colors once it really starts getting cold, but that's neither here nor there. Fish. That one felt a lot bigger than it is, because this rod being a moderate light, it feels so much softer. You got some funk going on with you too. Actually, that kind of looks like something bit it. There we go. I think we'll do 1 or 2 more fish and then swap rods out. Gotcha. This one feels a little bit nicer. Away from the sticks. It's not much bigger. Actually, it's a little bit smaller than the last one. You just slung that nasty creek water in my eye. Chill. That's a fun size one. Of course, by now, most of y'all probably know that I'm a numbers angler. I'm more about catching numbers of fish than I am the quality of them. Not going to complain about some big ones every now and then, but I stay more interested in being out there and more motivated to be out here when I'm catching, you know, numbers of fish. But anyway, I think that's a fair amount for this rod here, so we're going to cut this jig off, put this rod up, and move on to the next one. I do have it. The smell good kind. Not what that lady was talking about, but it'll have to work. But yeah, these skeeters are eating me alive. Anyway, we're on our 3rd rod here. This one, let me get this jig head hooked up here. The 3rd rod is the ACC crappie stick, 7'1" medium light. But in my opinion, this rod is a lot lighter than a medium light. It is a 2-piece rod. It's also their super grip. It's got that wind grip kind of handle on there. But this thing has a super soft tip. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but it doesn't really start getting into the backbone of the rod until you get to like this eyelet here. But this is a noodle of a rod. I'm not sure, but I think it's one of their newer rods. Not 100% sure, so. Hey, first fish. Of course, this rod being so soft tipped, this one feels a lot bigger than it actually is. One last look. Let's get it back. I am convinced already that spraying that bug spray on was a waste of time. Because like I said, I am pretty sure that when all the mosquitoes wake up here in Tennessee, the first thing they do is do shots of all of the bug sprays to take the edge off, and then they go to work. Oh, that is a bigger one. Come here now. That one's probably the biggest of the day. Definitely the meanest. Chill. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest of the day. That's a slab for this creek. Now I know it don't look like much, or at least this creek doesn't, but there's some good fish come out of this creek. I've caught several decent sized bullheads. I've caught, you know, bigger bass. I've caught several 11, 12-inch crappie. They're here. They're just few and far between. And what I can't figure out is when spring rolls around, where do these freaking fish go? Like, there's only so much of this creek and so many places that these fish can go, and they just disappear. Another one. Seems like a lot of them are starting to hold up right on the edge of the bank. I got you lassoed a little bit. There we go. That's a nice one. And if you're wondering why I take pictures of every fish I catch, I have a logbook. I take a picture of the fish, update my logbook, and then delete the picture so I don't have a gallery full of pictures. Like in most cases, unless it's a real impressive fish, all my fish pictures are gone, or like a new PB or something like that, I keep those. but most of the time I have about 350 or less pictures, and 99% of them's fishing related. That other 1% is memes. Oh, as soon as it hit the water, and my line's wrapped around my rod. I lassoed that one. That one hit it as soon as it hit the rod or water. They're really liking that little solid black trout magnet. One last look. The one thing that I don't like about this rod for this application, which this is not a rod that I would typically use for small creek fishing like this, because, well, it's a 7-foot plus rod, is that tip section is so whippy, the rod doesn't load up and cast as accurately. That's why I like a 5'8", 5'9" to 6'6", 6'8" rod. Another one. Beast. Last look. I know I'm not going to tell you where this creek is. There's a couple of people that watch that know where it is, but that's their business. Got it. This one feels decent. It's not big by any stretch of the imagination, but on this rod it feels good. No, I don't need a glob of this creek water in my face. I think that's a pretty bluegill. He's got all sorts of color on it. One last look, you can go home. Let's check on our old bait here. It's getting chewed up pretty good, but still got life in it. And that brings me to a question, or brings me to a little statement. I get asked fairly often, what is the best color for this? What's the best color for that? Well, it depends on the time of year, and think about it really. Spring, summer, you know, you got all kinds of bugs and stuff like that crawling around the tree, or trees falling in the water. Match colors that are similar to that. Like there, right there, you know, it hits the water. It just looks like any other little, you know, spider, worm, or whatever kind of bug, ants, falling out of trees and into the water. That's why I like your dark greens, your black and green, solid black, black and red, you know, your darker colors. Really any of your natural colors. Now, Trout Magnet does make a color that I really, really like. It's called the root beer color, and it's kind of a mix of brown and white that looks really good, or really, it looks a lot like a piece of a nightcrawler. And that's one of my favorite colors that they make. You know, I got interrupted there. I'll get back to that here in just a second. Another monster interruptified me. There we go. And I think what we'll do is call it on this one and move on to another rod. Man, I think it's got some pretty fin tips. I don't know how many fish we've caught on this single Trout Magnet. I mean, they're durable baits. They're not mule fishing durable. They're nowhere near that kind of durable. But they're durable. But speaking of mule fishing, if you want to buy some of their baits, check out that link in the top of the description. Whenever you buy something through it, I get a little bit of a kickback. So if you want to support the channel and buy you some awesome baits that are super tough, go check out top link in the description. All right, fourth rod here. This is a TFO trout panfish, 6'6" light power. Doesn't say whether it's moderate or anything like that. Well, just say fast, but light, fast, 1/16 ounce to 1/4 ounce, which feels, you know, fairly appropriate. 1/4 ounce is a little bit on the heavy end, but it's definitely doable. And I must say, I've got this thing spooled up with some Mr. Crappie 6-pound camo line, and that just fits the color theme of this rod so well. So anyway, we're gonna go back down here to the little fence, catch a couple more, and I know I'm contradicting myself, like I said, with the whole moving on from spot to spot. instead of burning a spot out. Actually, you know what? Since we're right here, we might as well. Oh, that's large. It's not huge, but it's one of the biggest ones of the day. Honestly thought that was a freaking bass, the way that thing hit. Dang, nice one. That felt much larger than it is. Fish. That's the nicer. It's not huge, but it's definitely one of the nicer ones of the day. It kind of looks like something got a hold of you. There's bite marks kind of like that right there, which tells me there are bigger fish in here. And that definitely ain't turtle bites, because a turtle that big would have killed the snot out of that fish. That one feels good too. Yeah, it's not that big, but it feels pretty good. Trying to show the bend of these rods as much as I can, which, all right now, there we go. Trying to show the bend of these rods as much as I can so you can kind of get an idea of what to expect. And one last look. I think we'll give it one or two more fish. Another one. Don't tell me you're snagged, you little shit. Well, I guess we'll be retying and going to something else. Well, that poor little trout magnet that we finally snagged and broke off lasted for 24 fish, which is a pretty dang solid little stop down here. But we're just going to try to get one or maybe two more on the TFO rod here and then move on, because the last two rods that I'm going to use, they're fairly similar. They're a lot stiffer rod than what we've been using, but they're really good, really versatile rods. And of course, there'll be links to all these rods in various places where you can check them out online and buy them if you're interested in checking them out. Fish. Alrighty. That was a nice one. Kind of unexpected. I decided to move away from the spot we've been catching the majority of them in down here at the fence post. One last look. Because I think they're getting smart. So, one more fish on this rod and we're going to move over, because we're also running kind of low on time. Gotcha. Alrighty, last fish on this rod. We're gonna move on. Last look. Alrighty, this rod here is one that I have had forever. The paint's starting to wear off of it. The grip is permanently stained and chipping in spots, but this is a Dobbins Fury 661 light fast action. What's the ratings on it? 1/8 to 3/8 ounce. I've got it paired up with a Shimano Sahara and I believe 8-pound braid, which the reel and braid ain't what we're talking about here. This is just about the rods. And hopefully you can kind of tell this thing has a lot of backbone, really soft tip section, really good rod for your finessey stuff like drop shots, Ned rigging, small swim baits, things like that. But this is also an extremely versatile rod when it comes to, bass fishing and crappie fishing. Matter of fact, I've caught everything from small little war paint shiners up to 6-7 pound catfish on this rod. It has been a straight up workhorse. Don't you dare say that you're stuck. I need to tighten my line so that I don't have that happen. But finally got us a new species. Hey, you keep them fins out. Y'all look good with those fins. Fins out like that. Man, them yellow perch look pretty when they got their fins out. Kind of surprised that it's been this long, or took this long today to get one of y'all. And it's definitely a learning curve going back to this rod and fishing with it, because the grip is completely different. The rod is stiffer, a lot different action than what I have been used to for the last several months, because I don't use this rod as much anymore. So the handling is slightly out of whack from what I'm used to. Oh, that one hit as soon as it hit the water. That's a nice fish right yonder. I know you wasn't hooked that good. I think we'll do one, maybe two more, and then go to the last rod. Because this has already been a dang successful little stop down here. One thing that I am quickly figuring out about this rod that I didn't realize before is this Dobbin's Fury 661 is a really good rod. I mean, real good rod for, you know, dock shooting and stuff like that. Ooh. That one right there is going to rival the biggest of the day. Jeez. Yeah, I think that one right there is the biggest of the day. And on that note, we're going to get that in back. Switch over to our other rod. And do what's probably going to be the longest portion of this video. Alright, the last rod that we're working with here is one of my newest and one of my more favorite rods since they came out last September. This is the 6 cents Stash Stick, 6'6" medium light, 6 to 14 pound line, 16th ounce to 1/4 ounce, which is, you know, fairly fitting. Now, I have thrown upwards of 3/8 ounce on this thing, and it handles it very well. And I've also thrown upwards of 1/2 ounce on it, but that was just a bait catching rig, and that worked too. But 3/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce is really on the upper end of what I would comfortably throw on it. Also, this one here has 6 pound braid. My other one, which is identical, rod and reel, has 10 pound braid on it. So we're going to catch a couple more fish and then call her quits. All right. That one hit it as soon as it hit the water. All right, now I know you ain't hooked that good. That was quick. Skipped it across the top of this little piece of brush in front of that stub. And there was one sitting over there just waiting. He was like, when's that loser going to throw that thing over here toward me? I'll show him what for. Now this rod here is definitely the stiffest out of all of the rods that we're throwing today. But I really like this rod as a kind of lighter multi-purpose setup. Because with this 6 pound braid, of course, I can throw as light as 64th ounce and 80th in a pinch, but it will handle throwing, you know, 64th ounce plenty for, you know, catching fish. You know, if I wanted to throw a little bit bigger jigs on it, it's the, is that a rod or no? Yeah, looks like we're probably going to be retying there. Finally found a stop, but don't want to give it back. Yep. But like I was saying, this rod will throw like 1/16 ounce really, really well. And it'll throw, you know, 1/4 ounce, 1/8 ounce really well also for, you know, lighter swim baits, Ned rigs and stuff like that. But it's a dang good ultra light crappie rod as far as the bait part of it goes. Ooh, you came out of nowhere. And we've got us a new species for the day. Oh, shoot. We'll get a picture and get that one back, and then untangle from this tree right here. Hey, I actually got that one. I thought I missed it. And I'll just screenshot my other one of this one. Pretty fish. They all pretty me. Jeez. That was just out of nowhere. I mean, you hit it like it owed you money. Ow. Not very big, but by golly, you had some attitude to you. That one that just kamikazed it. Gotcha. You tiny. And we're going to probably just call it quits on you because I'm running out of battery and getting a little bit late. That's a itty bitty one. I'll screenshot one of my other ones. Anyway, that was a mighty successful little stop down here, and I could fish a little bit longer if I wanted to, but I do need to get started on this video, so I'll see you in just a second. Alright, that was a dang solid little trip. Hopefully I got all of the fish in the video, but we ended up with 33 fish across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rods. Pretty good numbers. But anyway, starting out with the lightest, or at least lightest feeling as far as the noodleness of it goes, is the 7-1 medium light ACC Super Grip. This rod here is really, really light. I think it's better suited for slip corking, something like that. Getting more distance out there with a little bit heavier jig. Probably would cast a little bit better with a little bit lighter braid. I think this is 5-pound braid. Something a little bit finer braid, like a 4 to 6 pound Daiwa 8 strand, cast a little bit better, or like 4-pound mono or something like that. But this rod, once you get down into that backbone, you've got a lot to work with, and this rod can very easily handle some pretty good sized fish. So if you want to have something that's got a really light tip, a little bit longer rod to do some dock shooting with, even though shorter rods are really better suited for dock shooting or structure shooting, this one right here would actually be really good. So again, links in the description so you can check out all of these rods. I like all of these rods. Some of them I just use more or less than the others. So ACC crappie sticks, 7-foot-1 medium. Now this one feels more like an ultralight to me. This is the Kastking Zephyr. Does not come in a combo. I ordered the reel well after I got the rod, but this is the 6-foot moderate light. It is a 2-piece rod. It's got a decently long ferrule, so you don't have to worry about it being a weak section. But this rod is super, super light, super whippy. Like I said, I consider this more of an ultralight rod. It would be really good for dock shooting, things like that. And, you know, just general creek hopping where you want something that can handle some decent sized fish, but make the smaller ones feel pretty good. I believe this rod comes in around that $40, $45 price point, and the reel is about $30, $35, something along those lines. But Kastking Zephyr rod, definitely worth it, especially if you like a brighter rod so that you can see those really fine twitches for when, you know, fish are a little bit more finicky. Next up is one of my more favorite rods as of late. This is the ACC Crappie Sticks 6-foot 1-piece split grip, GS061P. Now, one thing I didn't state earlier about this rod is it's actually a medium, not a medium light. But this is all subjective, by the way. This rod tip is very, very light, and you've seen me, fish and catch little bitty shiners. You've seen me catch nearly 7-pound bass with this rod. It's a extremely versatile rod. I've thrown as small as 1/80 ounce jig heads. I've thrown up to 3/8 ounce inline spinners. This rod is super versatile, and if you wanted to use it as like a jigging rod, the front part of this grip right here, especially if you're like me and got a little bit smaller hands, is almost perfect. It just feels just right. A lot of the ACC rods are like that too, but it's just a very, very well-rounded rod. It's not too long, not too short. You can get into some really tight spaces, flip those baits in there and get to where you can't really cast to, and have enough rod to really get the bigger ones out of there and still have fun with the smaller ones. So the 6-foot ACC one piece, definitely check that one out. I believe that one sells for about $100 too. I'm not 100% sure. Now, on to one that I haven't used much of lately. This is the TFO 66 Light, the trout panfish rod. This is another one that feels a lot like an ultralight to me. It's got enough, rod there that it can handle the bigger fish, getting them out of or from under docks and out of structure and stuff like that. If you're going to be doing some dock shooting with it, it's a very comfortable rod. That right there is one of my favorite style of grips. Hopefully y'all can see that. It's just super, super comfortable. This rod was actually gifted to me along with the 7-1 ACC rod by Creek Fishing Adventures, and I don't use it a lot anymore, but it's one of my favorites. I like the color scheme. I like the way the grip and all that is designed. It's very comfortable. And another feature that it has, similar to the ACCs, that front grip portion is good for holding on to, like if you want to do some jigging. Good dock shooting rod, good just all-around creek fishing, panfish rod. Definitely check them out. Now, on to the 2 stiffer rods that we use today. The one that I've had forever, the one that I've caught some of the biggest variety of fish, Dobbins Fury 661 Light Fast. It's a one-piece rod, really good. It's unreal how versatile this rod is. It's really good for your Ned rigs, your really finessey baits. Like I said, I've caught as small as, little 2-3 inch shiners on it. I've caught big catfish on it. Well, big in comparison to the rod, like 6-7 pound catfish. But this rod has been one of my go-to, most reliable rods. I've done more crappie fishing with this rod than I care to mention. It's definitely a stiffer rod. You get into the backbone really, really quick with it, so it is a little bit much if you're going to be fishing where there's a lot of small fish. But it's really good, really suited for your, we'll say, 1/16 ounce to 1/4 ounce baits if you're going to use bigger jigs and stuff like that for crappie and bass and whatnot. And like I said earlier, this rod is a really, really good rod for dock shooting or shooting into structure and all that. I've kind of jacked up the hook keeper, but one thing that I don't like about this rod is the placement of the hook keeper. I do not like them being below the reel. I want them to be above it, and I prefer hook keepers to be, on the bottom side of the rod instead of the top. But the Dobbins Fury 661 Light, one of my favorite rods of all time. Like, I've had this rod longer than most of all of my other rods between, panfish and catfish rods. I've had this one longer than the majority of them. Definitely worth the money. They've gone up over the years, especially because of the virus that came around about 4 years ago. I think then they were about $109. Now they're around 120-ish, something along those lines. Again, Dobbins Fury 661 Light, stupidly good rod. Dobbins has good rods all around. So, lastly, one that I picked up, actually, I've got 2 of them now. I broke one of them. But this is the 6 Cents Stash Stick. If you know who Pig Patrol TV is on YouTube, this is his series of rods that 6 Cents made for him. And these rods were kind of hinted at about 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago. It's just they never really said anything about making them. From what I understand, that's what I understand from what he had talked about when these rods first came out. They're only available in 3 different sizes. the 6.6 medium light, the 6.9 medium, and the 6.11 medium heavy casting rod. So you got 2 spinning rods, 1 casting rod. Now this rod here is definitely the stiffest out of all of these rods, and like I said, it's just as capable of doing what the other rods did. It's not as good at some of the lighter stuff, but it will work. Like if I want to, you know, go catch some bluegill while I'm not trying to catch white bass, or, you know, bass fish or something like that, and I don't want to use heavier line and all that, well, I've got the exact same setup, and then this one was 6 pound. This rod being a little bit stiffer than the Dobyns Fury, it's not, in my opinion, not as good as a dock shooting rod, but that tip section, hopefully y'all can kind of see that. That tip section is still light enough that this is a very good rod for dock shooting. But again, this is all subjective, just my opinion. You'll have your own if you go around and buy some of these rods. They're definitely worth looking at. Each and every one of them are. So this is definitely one of my favorite of recent months. So anyway, I didn't want to go too into detail over all of these, or with all these rods, because that would just make the video too long, and it's already long enough as it is. So anyway, links will be in the description so you can check out all of these rods and buy you some. And also check out that top link in the description if you want to help out the channel. That is my mule fishing affiliate link. Anytime you click that link and buy something through it, I get a little bit of a kickback, which goes to helping the channel. So anyway, again, hope you liked the video. See you.